Well, hello good people. Part 3 of making a propeller for the Praga engine. If you're wondering, yes, that's the Aronka propeller on the bench. It's permit to fly renewal time. So I went down to the strip this morning and crack tested the crankshaft. I had to take the propeller off to do that, and I much prefer building the propeller back onto the hub on the bench rather than down in the field. So that's why it's here. We'll be back together by the end of the week. I'm going to drill the hub in a moment for the Praga prop using this borer and drill the prop bolt holes with this nice brand new wood drill. I've also bought a couple of new bandsaw blades rather than trying to chew it out with the old ones. There's 1/2 inch width. That one's 10 TPI. This one's 6. I think I'll probably use the 6 to start off with. Anyway, I've got the drilling machine set up next door, so let's go there. This is my Progress #1 drilling machine. It's circa 1950. I bought it from that dear old wheelwright who supplied quite a few other machines around here. I did have another pillar drill, quite a good one from Mr. B&Q, but this one is terrific, and so it has pride of place next to the bench. It's got a table, and the table was quite level, but I wanted to extend it somewhat to put the propeller on. I was a bit concerned when drilling the propeller that it was very important to get the drill bit going through at 90 degrees, like that way and that way. So the holes, after all the propeller hub is 3 inches thick, were nice and square. So I found a piece of old kitchen worktop from when we did up the kitchen a couple of years ago, and it's bolted to the table of the drilling machine. And at this end here, it's held with some studding, which is G-clamped to the bench through a wooden fitting, and I could adjust by using a spanner on those studs with a nut and a washer above and below the worktop. I've been able to adjust this so it is square. It's level with the spirit level, and it's square both ways on the drilling head. So what I'm going to do now is bolt the blank onto this. It doesn't go much further than there. In fact, the lathe is sitting there at the moment. It needs drilling 6 holes, and then using the studs that I made in part 2 and some of the clamping brackets, and clamp the blank down nice and firm, and then set the boring tool up and bore that center hole. That's the holes drilled. Now I'm going to do something on this channel that you've never seen before. I'm going to tidy up. Well, I would if I turned the Hoover on. I'm putting this up on some packing because when the cutting bar, the boring bar, breaks through the other side, it's obviously going to dig into the bench otherwise. That wouldn't matter. It's only a sort of bit of a one-off, although I think I'll keep this bench, or this wooden thing I've made. I'll stick it behind the bench next door because I'm sure it'll come in handy again. But when the thing goes through, it's likely to break out some wood unless there's a nice stout piece of packing behind. So I think a bit of MDF is a good idea. And also when it drills into the MDF, I'll see a different colour, different texture chip coming out the top. I'll know it's through. So almost in the right place. Well, it's all done up tight. I whizzed around it with a couple of spanners actually just to make sure it was double tight. So I suppose there's no excuse not to drill a hole now. I rather hope this all works out. Here goes. just going to have a bit of a tidy up because there's an awful lot of wood mess and I can't really see what's going on. Nearly there. It's rather nifty. So I can get that out. Break it, I think. That seems to be the very last piece of the bottom plank. I think I can see the MDF there. I'm just going to go down into the MDF piece a little bit to make sure. Yep, that's all the way through. Good. I've just left it a few minutes because that tool was pretty hot, but I think I can take it out now. We'll try the hub in the hole because I don't want to displace this from the table yet in case we need to just move the tool out a little bit and take a skim out the inside. I hope we don't. I did a sort of test piece on a much thinner piece of wood and it seemed to be okay. I go in. Well, I never. Well, haha. Pretty much perfect. Excellent. I'm going to turn the blank over now and I need to open out the hole on the other side. So just turn it over first. This is the front. I call this the front of the propeller. This is where the faceplate goes, and I've written front on it just so I start identifying the propeller. I know it's just a flat blank at the moment, but I've got to start visualizing the sort of section on it a little bit. One, for my own benefit, just so I sort of think about how I'm going to create it, and secondly, because the back needs to be beveled. If you look closely at that, Try and hold it not like an idiot. You'll see the corner here is beveled slightly. So I need to recreate that bevel. Now I probably could do it by mechanical means, but I'm not going to. I think I'm going to use a file. Eric Clapton in his book suggests new files. I know this from steel and brass work, that if you use a file on steel, it's never any use on soft material again. So files you use for brass or aluminium, you want to keep them separate from files you use for steel. Likewise, if you've used a file on steel, it's rubbish on wood and dirty. So this is a new file. I reckon I can do this. It's not going to be the quickest way of doing it, but it's unlikely to be a way that I cock it up. And if it takes 10 minutes or even 20 minutes, so be it. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do now. In fact, I'm going to go and have a celebratory cup of tea first, and then I'm going to do it. Several celebratory cups of tea later, and about 10-15 minutes work, and the hole is beveled. The file, that half-round file, worked a treat. So the hub now sits in like so. So what I've got to do now is mark a centre line on part of this. So I get this lined up and then mark the holes, and then we can drill all 6 10mm holes for the prop bolts. This is a Bosch wood drill, 10mm. I have tried it in a couple of test pieces. It drills very nicely. But, I hope it survives drilling 6 3-inch deep holes. It's meant to last 1,000 years, of course. I suppose we'll find out. I'm just contemplating as to whether I should bolt this down to the bench or not. I obviously bolted it down to do the big hole, but that was a big cutter. It came from Trago Mills, actually. It was all of a £5. Very impressed with it. But it was very easy for the workpiece to move with that, and I really wanted it to be very, very accurate and not shift, with that great big cutting bar going around. But these are just 10mm holes, and this blank is heavy, and it's damn heavy. So I think I'm just going to throw caution to the wind. Why not? I did encourage reckless behaviour recently, so let's go. I've turned the blank over now, so this is the front, and I'm having to mess around with the prop bolts. They're a bit tight. I've just found a nice round file that's not all nasty and dirty and buggered up, and I just ran it through that hole there just to get a nice sliding fit. So I'm going to do that to all the holes. The reason I turned the camera on was just to show that it's nice and square. The reason I can tell it's nice and square is this in here, this wooden So, well, it's just the end of the hole. It's slightly smaller diameter than the hole in the faceplate, which came with the engine, and they are both concentric, which means the holes are square and at 90 degrees. So all this messing around making the drilling table was time very well spent, I think, in putting clamps on and everything. So I'm just going to finish cleaning up the holes and then try the hub with all the nuts, or at least with all the bolts. We'll see. I ran the holes through with this wood file. Well, don't know whether it was a wood file or not, but it was nice and clean and it had wood chip on it from before. Anyway, it went straight through the holes. It was exactly the right size. And once I'd done that, the hub went straight on. I just tapped the bolts in and they're actually in with their 11mm shoulders and everything. So they all line up really well. I'm not going to bother with the faceplate. It's all so close that we can bother with that when we actually bolt the propeller up to the hub when it's finished. So I'm just going to take the hub off now and we'll go down to the bandsaw and cut the blank out. I've set up the mighty Denning bandsaw with a 6 TPI 1/2 inch wide blade, and I've also adjusted the table so it's pretty much spot on 90 degrees with the blade at the right tension. But there's a bit of a problem here. I can't get the blank into the front of the blade because the shed isn't quite big enough, which presents a problem, but I think I have a solution. Well, there we are. Plenty of room now, and it's a bit lighter as well, so that was quite a good idea, really. Well, that's roughed out. I'm going to cut it to size in a moment. It's quite slow going. I'm not filming it all, but I just stopped to inspect all the offcuts and to make another quick cup of tea. And I was just checking the glue lines. It's actually quite difficult to see the glue lines on here. I was reading on a forum, I know it's for furniture builders, people complaining about this Type Bond 3, saying that it left much more visible glue lines than Type Bond 2, and of course furniture builders didn't want that. But of course aeroplane builders do. We want to see where the glue's gone. And I was just making sure that we didn't have a dry joint or any evidence of any dry joints. But of course it was clamped up so tight, I didn't think there was any chance of a dry joint, and I did put a lot of glue on. Anyway, that's so far. At least the prop blank weighs quite a lot less already, having carved a decent amount off each side. So I'll carry on. at least I've turned some of it into firewood. Back in the workshop now. I'm very pleased with today's progress, particularly this hub drilling. That's a really nice fit. Very, very pleased with that, and the bolts. So it was worth me being fussy. I did think I was being an utter fusspot and maybe it was a waste of time making that table up, but no, it was really worthwhile. The bandsaw was cut nice and square. The hub is very square. I checked it with a square. In fact, I think it's still down by the bandsaw. But I spent a lot of time making sure the blade was properly at 90 degrees to the table. And when I cut from each side, the cuts met vertically, which of course if the table hadn't been level or at 90 degrees to the blade, there would have been a sort of an angle left where the two parts met, but there weren't. It was quite hard to cut out. I was a bit surprised how tough it was, but 2 goes got it done. So I'm going to stop there. I have done more. This is sort of finished part 3, but part 4 will be following on very soon, because I'm going to mark up the blank now using the drawings I've done and using this template as well for where the trailing edge goes, etc. So I'm going to carry on with that. I'll keep filming and we'll have part 4 in a week or so. I'm rather hoping that part 4 might be the last one. Maybe there would be a part 5, but I really want to get this finished and that Praga engine running. I better go and nail the side back on the shed. Anyway, as always, thank you for watching.